Welcome to the book of Melachim Aleph, the book of Kings, chapter 1. Melachim Aleph, Parak Aleph, chapter 1. This is an exciting transition between the kingdom of David to the kingdom of his son. I'm not going to say which one because it's going to be a surprise if you don't know. It's Shmuel Bet is kind of the end days of David. The first chapter of Melachim is about that transition between David and the next king. Stay tuned. And then you go on to read about the various kings that the Jewish people had in the time of the time after David. I don't want to give up too much. So the chapter starts off with the scene of an old king who lived a full life. That is King David. He's very old, and it's setting the stage to prepare you for the transition, for the succession to the next king. So it says that King David is very old, and they try and cover him with clothing and blankets, and he can't warm up. And so his servants say, bring in front of you a young, beautiful woman, and she's going to be your assistant, and hopefully you'll feel better. Pretty weird stuff, but thank God we don't do any of that today, but pretty weird for sure. So they look for a pretty girl, and they find her name is Avishag Hashunamit, and they bring her to the king, and she's the one who, she doesn't marry him, but she brings him food, she takes care of him, she helps him, and she's known to be very, very beautiful. Meanwhile, guess who notices that his father is getting old? Well, usually you would think of Shalom, but Avshalom is no longer. And so now you have his son, David's son, Adoniah ben Chagit. He is the son of David and Chagit, and he's like, I'm going to be the next king. And he has a chariot for himself. He has lots of horses running in front of him in the street. And 50 people run in front of him to announce his arrival. And his father kind of turns a blind eye to him. It says that his father never scolded him, never gave him a hard time, which is usually a recipe for disaster. And he's also beautiful, and he was born after Avshalom, and so he starts conspiring over his takeover, over his succession. He speaks to Yoav ben Surya, he speaks to Eviatar Cohen, and they're like, yeah, we're with you. Adoniah, my friend, you're the guy. And so he's gonna be he's wanting to be the next king. Meanwhile, Tzadok HaKohen, Bnayahu ben Yehoyada, Natan HaNavi, Shim'i, and Re'i, and the heroes of David do not like Adoniah ben Chagit. So Adoniah ben Chagit starts setting the stage to his takeover, and he brings sacrifices near a huge stone called Even HaZochelet in Rogel. He calls everybody, he invites everyone. However, he does not invite those who don't support him. He does not invite Natan HaNavi, he does not invite Benaiah, he does not invite the heroes of David, and he does not invite his brother Shlomo, Solomon. So he doesn't invite them. So Natan calls Bathsheba, the mother of Shlomo, and she says, I hear that, Natan tells Bathsheba, I hear that Adoniah is already establishing himself as king, and that David does not know about this. And so Natan says, here's my advice to you, and that's how you'll survive and how your son will survive. Because remember, this is not just about who's going to be next king. When Adoniah becomes king, all competition will be disappeared. And so if Bathsheba wants her son Shlomo to even survive, she better make sure Adoniah is not the next king. And so he says, here's my advice to you, Bathsheba. Go tomorrow to the king and tell him you promised me that my son Shlomo is going to be king, so why is Adoniah king? As you speak, I will walk in spontaneously, and I will be like, oh wow, I didn't know that Adoniah is supposed to be the king, and I'm gonna follow the act. And so Bathsheba comes to the king into the room, and the king's very old, and there is young Avishag Hashunamit serving him, taking care of him. And Bathsheba bows down to the king, and the king says, what do you want? He's very old, he's frail. And she tells David, you swore to me in Hashem's name that Shlomo is going to be the king, and he's going to succeed you. And guess what happened? Adoniah is king, and you didn't know, but he brought sacrifices, he invited all the sons of the king, but he also called Eviatar Cohen, he also called Yoav, but he did not call Shlomo. He did not call Shlomo your servant. And so she turns to David. She says, the eyes of all of Israel are upon you. Everyone wants to know what the verdict is over who's going to be the next king. And if we don't tell you now and you suddenly die, me and my son, Shlomo, are going to be in lots of trouble. As she is speaking, according to the plan, everything goes as planned. The prophet Natan comes and arrives. And Natan arrives, he bows down to the king, and Natan says to the king, have you decided that Adoniah is going to be the next king? Because he's doing all these sacrifices, he's inviting people, they're saying, Yechi HaMelech, may long live the king, and Eviatar is there, and the military people are there, but I'm not there, and Tzadok is not there, and Benaiah ben Yehoyada is not there, and Shlomo is not there. So I'm just here to wonder if this is your decision, or if he did this on his own. And so David says, wait a minute, call Bathsheba right back. She clearly left the room, and she comes, and the king swears again, and he says, I swear by Hashem who saved me, I swear by Hashem that Shlomo is going to be the king after me, he's going to take my throne. And Bathsheba bows down, and she says, Yechi HaMelech David, may you live forever. And the King David says, call Tzadok and Natan and Benaiah ben Yehoyada, and he says, come. And the king says, without hesitation, without delay, take my son Shlomo on a mule to the Gihon stream. Now, if you've been to Jerusalem, especially to the city of David archaeological area, you know that the Gihon is that underwater channel of fresh water that goes under Jerusalem in those tunnels. And so, go there and have Tzadok anoint Shlomo with the oil, the special oil, the Shemen HaMishcha, have him anoint him, and everyone should call out, Yechi HaMelech Shlomo, long live the king, King Shlomo. And you should go after him, and he's going to come, and he's going to be the king instead of me, and I command that he, Shlomo, will be the one who leads Bnei Israel, and he's going to lead Yehuda, and Benaiah Yehoyada says, okay, great, that sounds very good, and I'm with you on that. And just like Hashem has been with you, may Hashem be with your son Shlomo. Sounds very good, and may he even be greater than you were. And so Tzadok goes, and also the Kreti and Pleti, which we've seen in the past, could be the Urim Betumim, and they take Shlomo on the mule of King David, and they bring him to the Gihon. Tzadok HaKohen takes the, it's like it's like a bottle, but they used to host it in a horn, a bottle of oil, sort of like in the Lion King, where they put the oil like that, and they anoint Shlomo, Tzadok anoints Shlomo, and everyone screams, Yechi HaMelech Shlomo, and the shofar blows. And everyone's bursting out with joy, there's music, there's everyone screaming, and as this happens, guess who hears that noise? Adoniah ben Chagit, who's in the middle of his barbecue with his korbanot, and he hears the whole city screaming. And as he's celebrating, Yonatan, son of Eviatar, comes, and Adoniah comes and says, oh, give me the good news. And Yonatan says, sorry, you partied too soon. Actually, David anointed Shlomo to be the next king. And he not only anointed him, but he sent Tzadok with him, he sent Natan with him, he sent Benaiah ben Yehoyada, the Kreti, the Pleti. He was on the king's mule, and they anointed him with the oil, and the whole city is partying, and Shlomo actually sat on the throne of King David, and everyone blessed him. Basically, it's as done a deal as they get. And David is like, oh, I'm so happy to see Shlomo on my throne, even as I see. Now, everyone who is at Adoniah's party, this is what we call awkward. Why is it awkward? Because they realize that they anointed Adoniah, but the next king is not going to appreciate that. It's kind of a rebellion. So Adoniah is afraid, and Adoniah runs up to the Mishkan, to where the Mizbeach is, and Adoniah holds on to the edges, to the corners of the Mizbeach, and Shlomo hears that Adoniah is holding in the Mizbeach, and he says, I will not let go of this Mizbeach, I will not leave unless Shlomo swears to me that he's not going to kill me. And Shlomo says, "Don't worry, if you behave properly, nothing is going to happen." And he bows down to Shlomo, and Shlomo says, "Go home, don't worry." And that is it. That is the chapter. So what did we see in this chapter? We saw David getting old, getting sick. They bring to him Avishai Shunammite to serve him. Then they have Adoniah ben Chagit. He's having himself buttered up and preparing himself to be the next king, having people run in front of him and announce him. Meanwhile, Natan Navi hears about this, that Adoniah is doing this party and he's deciding to anoint himself. And so Natan quickly comes to Bathsheba, who tells David, who then Natan walks in spontaneously. They decide that it's going to be Shlomo. Shlomo is anointed at the Gihon spring, and there's a huge outburst of joy and happiness, and Adoniah hears it, and his party becomes somewhat spoiled. That is Melachim chapter Perek Aleph, Melachim Aleph Perek Aleph, chapter 1. Tons and tons of drama in the next chapter, so stay tuned.